Good morning, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're very well on this very chilly morning. I'm just going to add an extra colour because there is a hint in the background of lemon yellow, and I want to make sure that that is also added. So there we go. Excuse all the bonging because it's 10 o'clock. All my clocks are going off. Right. Let's get some birdsong on. How are you anyway this morning? I hope you're well and ready for coloured glass. Now, it's much easier than it is, to be honest. In fact, I don't like saying too much about stuff, because obviously everybody finds some things easier, some things are more difficult for some, and I don't like to make people feel under pressure or that they're not good enough if it doesn't do what they want it to do. But generally speaking, coloured glass in watercolour is one of the easiest things to paint. As long, here's the crucial thing, is pointing my finger at you. As long as you're drawing or tracing, I've traced this morning because of time, through bleary eyes. As long as your drawing is fairly accurate, you'll be fine. Now, I have sketched in, and you can just about see very faint lines of where all the patination changes, all the colours change. In fact, there's a slightly darker bit coming around like a bit of a hat there, and there's a darker bit there. I did start drawing that, but then I gave up, it would seem. So, of course you're going to have loads of time. I'm going to give you till 20 past. I did post this yesterday afternoon for anybody who wanted to do get ahead, get a hat. You don't want heavy lines, but draw the shapes that each fraction of colour will make. And I swear on my slippers that you'll get a really good result, honestly. It's all about observation. Well, to be honest, and I'll say this again and I'll keep saying it because it's true, all painting is mixing the right colour and putting it in the right place, in the right shape, with the right brush. Now, I know you might think that's oversimplifying what in essence, painting is. But actually, that's all it ever is, and it's all it ever has been. My job is to help you decide what the right colour is, what the right shape is, what the right place is, and what the right brush is. That's all I do. You do the rest. And again, I'm probably oversimplifying the whole exercise, but honestly, if you can give yourself a little bit more time than you would if we were painting this in any other medium, sketch out where the dark lines are. Now, I haven't done it on all of them because I'm doing it with you now, so you can see what I'm going on about. There's a dark line down here. Ooh, it's a bit wonky. That's a dark line. That's a dark line. Goes down further than that. On the shoulder. So it's all about preparation. Preparation is the key for most things. Now, obviously, a lot of people say to me, because I like to know what colours. Obviously, I do a lot of this for you. I do all of the prep for you. So why it takes me such a long time to do these classes? Obviously, I prepare the subject matter, then and I prepare the subject matter vaguely, 6 months to a year in advance. I then the week of the lesson, choose the actual image that I'm going to use, and then from that point I then look at which colours are going to be useful, which colours I can then reduce to make a more harmonious palette, and which colours will work. And then I have to think about who possibly will be in the class. Are they new? Are they, have they done much of whatever medium it is or whatever subject it is? How can I break it down in a simplified way? There's a lot of behind the scenes work, but planning is crucial. And people say to me, well, if you know exactly what colours you're going to use and you've got it all drawn out, isn't it boring? No, it's actually really quite freeing, and it is not anxiety inducing, and it's not stressful. If I didn't really know what colours I needed, or what shapes to put them in, or if I didn't have the same level of planning, what would happen is I'd just get really stressed and annoyed, and I'd just be slopping colours about. I'll be mixing up expensive paint that I can't really afford to waste, and just sloshing it around, getting more annoyed every time I did because it still wouldn't work. And then I wouldn't have a painting, I wouldn't have a paint palette, and everything would be in the fire because I'd just get annoyed with it. So I think planning is crucial with everything. I once used to have a keyring. I haven't got a bit of scrap paper. I don't have a scrap bit of paper. I haven't got a pen here. Hang on, I'll show you my keyring. I haven't got it anymore. It's the scrap bit of paper, Barry. What's going on? Oh, that'll do. This upside down box. So I had a keyring when I was a kid, and I got it from a lovely craft centre in Wales. And it just said this: plan ahead. And the craft centre was Corris, and it was a little wooden keyring, and it was pyrography work. And that's always been my motto for everything in life: plan ahead and make sure you've got enough space for that D. It doesn't always work because I'm very impatient as a person, and I don't like. I am just impatient. But you're right, Marie. But I think preparation enables you to go off piste because you've got the confidence that you know what it could be. Excuse me, slurping my tea. And because it goes so well, you can move it in whatever direction you want. Whereas if you haven't really got a clue when you're starting, how are you going to get there? Picasso famously said, learn the rules like a pro, then break them like an artist. And that is so, so, so true. You need to understand the foundations of what you're doing in order to break them. And sadly, a lot of artists, and it's the same in music and the same in fashion, everyone's taught shortcuts. And sometimes they're really fun. You might do an art degree and you're slopping paint around and you're gluing collage on and what have you. But at the end of your 4 years and many thousands of pounds, you may not know about colour mixing. You may not know about how watercolours work, or acrylics, or oils. You may not know about colour theory or colour harmony. You may not understand about glazing or perspective, or fundamentals of the foundations of art after a foundation degree. And I know that has happened to several and quite a lot of students who have done that. I think an illustrating degree actually gives you a far more rounded and art education than a foundation in art education. But anyway, so we've got people graduating knowing how to break rules without knowing what the rules are. Morning, Janet. And I find that very sad. I find it very sad that you can. It's fun to slap around a bit of paint, um, but I see so many younger artists out there, and they are selling amazing work for amazing high prices, which is wonderful. However, they're using supplies that they don't understand how they work. They don't understand that a lot of their things that they're using will fade within 2 years. So somebody spending £300 to £500 on a pet portrait of their beloved animal, they're going to hang it up in their living room or their conservatory, and by 5 years' time it will be a blank piece of paper again, because they're not understanding the materials, because they've never been trained or shown. Um, and I find that very disheartening, and I find it quite worrying and alarming in a way that we're getting loads of generations, because the art suppliers, a lot of these art companies that are just springing up out of the blue, and I can think of a handful off the top of my head who I see adverts for on Facebook and Instagram, who I've never ever heard of, that have no previous knowledge in making paints and colours and pencils and all of this, and they're selling really cheap art products, but you're buying them and you don't know if the paint's going to last 3 minutes or 3 months or 3 years or 300 years when it's on the wall. But there's a... Well, I'm just filling in time while you're drawing, to be fair. Make sure all the shapes, Janet, are all the different aspects of different colours on each bottle are drawn in, because that's going to be easier when we come to add the paint. And I've added lemon yellow to the colour list as well. So 2 blues, 2 reds. No, 2 blues, 1 red. No, yeah, 2 blues, 2 reds, 2 yellows. So the whole 6. The growing trend amongst younger artists is that we don't want to learn the rules. No one can tell us what to do, and we'll use whatever we want, however we want, without understanding the impact of what we're doing. But we want high prices. And I see so many artists on... I've had to leave an artists group because they're all about, I can't believe people want me to work for free. I'm an artist, I need to pay. And then the next week they're saying, oh, I need to learn some new techniques. Can anyone give me any free demos, because I don't want to pay for education. I don't want to pay to learn. Or where can I get cheap art supplies from? And I've had to say to them, hang on a minute, last week you were saying you don't want to work for free, so why are you asking art teachers to work for free? Why are you asking art suppliers to work for cheap? If you're not prepared to support your industry and pay properly for what you want to do to expand your career. I don't know whether it's... I don't think it's a generational thing. I just think it's the generation we live in rather than an age group of people. Everything's got to be fast, it's got to be quick, it's got to be cheap, and it's got to be easy. But, you know, real art isn't like this, as all of you have found out over the years, or however long you've been with me. Sometimes the simple things can be harder, and sometimes something that's perceived as hard, like what we're going to do today, is actually not as scary as you think. So I'll give you till 20 past. So yeah, I do get a bit on my high horse a little bit about these kind of things, because, you know, it's taken me decades to understand my trade. And I don't always, because there's so many new things coming out all the time, it takes a lot longer. So people will say, oh, what about this brand, or what about that brand? And they might have only been developed in the last 3 months, but they've got a good, strong following on social media, and they've got thousands of pounds of advertising to throw into it. So you see it everywhere. So you think that they must be a reputable brand, but there's no test of them because they haven't been around long enough. You know, businesses like Winsor & Newton, Dale Rowney, Kohinoor, St. Petersburg of Russia, they've been around for centuries, and they know what they're doing. I'd far more prefer to trust them than some advert I've seen on Instagram of a company I've never heard of, just to save £2 or £3, because at the end of the day, if it ruins your painting, or you can't, or you've sold a pet portrait for £500. Not that I ever will, Sarah. I wish. Um, and then 3 years down the line, they're saying, "Well, I've got no painting left; it's all faded." It's the same as a lot of the people that use the graphic markers, like the Pro markers or the Copic pens. You know, all of the manga artists and things. I was talking to a student a while ago, and they did a lot of work on with manga, well, illustrative stuff with Poscas and Pro markers and Copics. And I had to say to them, do you actually realise that the pens you're using are not light fast? And they went, what do you mean? I said, they're not light fast in any shape or form, which means they're going to fade within 3 to 5 years. I said, did you know that? And they went, no. I said, and they went, well, what can I do? I said, there is nothing you can do. The only thing you can do in that situation is to not sell the original and sell a print, because if you get a professional print, it will have pigmented ink that will guaranteed to last 60 to 80 years, which is still a lot longer than your marker pen will. So when you do work with marker pens, keep the original, sell the prints. I said, or at least make the buyer aware that you are using products that will fade. It's really interesting because most of the time I either use Artist's Watercolour for all of these classes, or Cotman Watercolour, which is actually still it's classed as a student brand, but it's actually really light fast. And I'll sell my £5 paintings like this one. If it doesn't work out frameable, it'll go in the £5 basket. Yet it's actually going to be painted in Artist's Watercolours, so the colours will last for 500 years. So for a £5, you're getting this. Whereas you might go to I'm not going to say a young artist again, because that's unfair. There are lots of adults, older people that are using graphic markers now. You might buy an amazing picture created with graphic markers for £300, and it fades within a month if you hang it in your conservatory. So, you know, it's good to test it all out. But I'm waffling on, and I'll stop for a minute. But planning is crucial. Think of our little plan ahead sign. It gives me far more freedom planning ahead than suck it and see moments. So 2 reds, 2 blues. If you haven't got phthalo blue, you can use cerulean. Phthalo blue is just a little bit punchier. If you haven't got crimson, you can use carmine. If you haven't got cadmium red, you can use vermilion or cadmium red light. Ultramarine is the only one that needs to be ultramarine. It's the only proper purple-based blue available. There is another one being manufactured, and I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm going to call it Yinmin, YNMN. And it's a brand new blue that has been discovered over the last 5 years. Not discovered, created. And Crayola have brought out a brand new blue crayon using this Yinmin blue. And it looks lovely, actually. It looks an in-between ultramarine and cobalt blue. Because cobalt blue was created initially as a substitute, a cheap substitute for ultramarine. Because obviously original ultramarine was lapis lazuli, found in the foothills of Afghanistan, and it's more expensive than gold. So before the new fake ultramarine was created, that's exactly like ultramarine, cobalt blue was supposed to be its substitute. However, I don't think cobalt blue is anywhere near as purple or as deep as ultramarine. It's kind of in between ultramarine and cerulean, I find. So I cannot and have not found a colour that I will use that resembles ultramarine straight away. I can make a similar ultramarine using dioxazine purple and phthalo blue, but there is no blue paint that matches ultramarine in my eyes. I do love it. And have you noticed today there is no ultramarine, no burnt sienna on my list? I did a post on my... I've got a monthly challenge I've created called February Arty, for a whole month, a different prompt each month for artists to follow. And there's about half a dozen artists throughout the UK doing it, which is quite cool. One of the prompts I chose was what's your favourite colour or your most used colour. Now, obviously, my most used colour is actually burnt sienna. It's in nearly every single painting I use. I might not always have ultramarine. I always have a blue in there, but it depends which blue. But burnt sienna generally appears in nearly everything. And Janet, I think you can vouch for that because I'm obsessed with the colour. It's the same colour as my hair. So burnt sienna is my favourite colour. But today, this morning, I'm not using it. This afternoon, I will be. Right, have you drawn? So we've got lots of reflected light, we've got lots of stuff, but don't feel it's as scary as you may think, because it isn't. I'll be gentle with you. If my phone rings today, I do have to take it. I've had an urgent thing that I've got to sort. I'm having to redirect all of the deliveries to home, rather than the shop, because I'm here more than I'm there. However, who knows when they turn up? I can't ever tell. So I'm sitting around, surrounded by towers of boxes. However, one of the suppliers phoned me yesterday and said, we think we've had a picking area. He said, have you had your delivery? I said, yes, I haven't looked at it yet. It's just stacked up in the dining room. And he said, we've had a new person join in the warehouse. He said, you've ordered 2 art folders of gift pack. So it's like a gouache set with paper and brushes and palette and stuff in a folder. And I went, yes. He said, well, the new guy thought you ordered 2 boxes of them. And I went, oh. He said, can you just check? I said, hang on a minute, I'll just move all the boxes out of the way. And I went, oh, yes. There's a box of 10 here. He said, yes, I think you have another one as well. So instead of... And the boxes come in 10s. So instead of just 2, he sent me 2 boxes. And I said, well, I don't want 2 boxes. He said, no, and we need them back at the warehouse. So I'm going to ring you today and arrange collection. So that's funny. I nearly ended up with... I would have gone mad when I opened them and found I'd got 20 art folders, A3 art folders, that I hadn't ordered. They're quite nice actually, because you get a mixed media pad, a set of gouache and some paper and whatever. But I'm just going to get 2 for now, and then we'll see how they get on. Hilariously, it'd be funny if I put them on our online shop and I end up getting orders of 20. That would be quite annoying. Right. Let's try and do some painting. Okay. I'm going to start with a bit of the green in the background, which is kind of like a lemony colour. So that's why I've added lemon. I forgot about the background when I was choosing the colours yesterday. So I'm going to go with a little bit of lemon. It's a pale wash and a tiny bit of ultramarine. So it's a lemony blue, but we don't want lots of it because it's just going in here. I'm not wetting the background first. Just today is a bat. We're not painting bats, Barry. Today is about layers. There's so many layers today. I've finally purchased a new hairdryer. I bought 2 hairdryers actually. One for the shop after the other one set on fire before Christmas, and one for down here, so I don't have to keep running up and down stairs all the time. And it's quite a fancy one. it does an ice cold blast. I don't know whenever I'll need an ice cold blast, because I want a hairdryer because it's hot. I don't want a fridge, but I've got one anyway. And I've put a cup hook on the desk next to me, so it's hanging nicely, so it's plugged in and is reachable. If you want to make this a little bit more variable while you've got damp bits, you could always drop in a slightly darker version. It's a very out of focus background, so you don't want to spend too long on it at all, but there is a sort of bluer wiggle. So if you've got a hairdryer, you'll find it useful to have it to hand for what we're going to do today. Because basically, that doesn't look very lemony on my screen. Have I got to fiddle with the camera? I'm just fiddling, sorry. Is it the hue I need to change or the saturation? I think that's slightly better, but it's still not as lemony as I would have liked to show. But that's okay. We can live with that. Oh, I'm drunk. Must have a hole in my cup of tea. There's not much left in it. So it's all about layers, which is quite a weird thing. But it's well worth doing. So while I've got this bluier green, I need to mix just a little bit more, because I was a little bit too stingy with it. So this is the ultramarine and lemon yellow. There are some blue shapes here. So basically, it's all about the shapes. It's all about the shapes, about the shapes. It doesn't matter if you haven't got them in exactly the right place, because nobody's going to have the photograph of it to question you. And why would they question such skillful artists as yourselves? And in fact, if I add a bit more lemon again and a bit more water, there's kind of... And this is where it always gets a bit weird when you're painting glass. But it's well worth sticking with it. I've got too much paint on my brush. Let me just clean it off a little. Because you've got so many different reflections of things. It's so easy not to do this. But it makes such a difference. Oh, I'm finding it really hilarious that people find my voice relaxing, by the way. I've had several people say to me over the last 12 months how much they enjoy listening to the classes because it soothes them and relaxes them. Now, I never would have said my whining black country accent was soothing or relaxing, but there you go. Something like that. So that's while I've got the oh, do you know what, actually? Oh, do I do it in this colour or not? Yes. Let's go with a bit more blue again. This background one here, there is some green amongst the blue. It's kind of a viridian colour. You know how much I can't stand viridian. But we're going to make it because it's a glass colour and it's actually there. So basically what we're going to do is just look for shapes. So when we've got one colour, we're going to do as much as we can in that one colour, wherever we can see it. Just got to lift out some of the bubbles of water, the beads that have formed. Okay. I think people feel, you know what, when you're painting anything, everything's hard when you don't know how to do it, isn't it? And I have to say, there are some artists and some art teachers out there who deliberately try to make things look more difficult than they are to make them feel more powerful. There's this weird thing in the art world where there are so many artists that feel that they shouldn't be passing things on. It's their technique. Nothing's their own. Nothing is new. And it should be accessible to everybody who wants it, which is what I've spent my career doing. You shouldn't want to hide certain styles or techniques. I mean, charge for them. You know, charge for people to learn how to do them from you if you think you're that amazing. But don't hide them, because when you pass away, I'm talking to the artist, not you. You know, when the artist passes away, that will die with them. And then nobody will know how to do it. But then maybe that's what they want. So they're held up as a pinnacle of a great artist. Nobody can learn how to do that. Seurat, the Impressionist, you know, the one that did pointillism. We don't really know how he did any of his work because he hid a lot of his techniques. He refused. He worked alone. He didn't share. And he died at a very young age, in his 30s. And he only got a little baby boy at that time who was 1. So nobody... only now, you know, when was Seurat? He was, the late 1880s. So now we're over 100 and some odd years on, nearly 150 years on, 140 years on. And we're only just learning how he painted because of X-rays and, you know, modern technology. And even then we don't actually fully know how he did what he did. So there's an air of mystery about him. When I go, there won't be an air of mystery about me, will there? Because I've got how many hundreds of videos? Me showing you. Okay, that needs to dry. That's me magically drying my work. Have I lightened this too much? Do I need to darken the screen a fraction? Or is it just about... Oh, that's actually not bad. It's because my laptop's at a slight... my laptop lid screen is like forwards, so it changes the colours, doesn't it, somewhat? That's my face. Hello. Just checking. I think that'll do because it is quite bright in here today. So we're gonna mix up and move around a little bit today, and let me just move that green because I don't think I need much of that, to be honest now. So we can move on to another random thing. We're going to be random today. And the reason why I'm making it random, and we're going to be like creative butterflies this morning, and we're going to go a bit on one and a bit on another and a bit on another. It's to stop you from worrying about, oh God, this glass, oh God, that glass, I can't do that bottle, that's a really hard bottle. So we're not going to look at it as bottles. We're just going to be painting random shapes for the next 2 hours. And then in the end, it'll look like it. Have you ever seen... I posted it a while ago, and it was a Thursday evening watercolour class on painting a metallic object. And it's one of the few paintings that I finished. And I fell in love with one of my own pieces of work, which I very, very rarely do. And I've got it framed, and it's in the dining room. And it's of a big brass jug with a lemon. And I can tell you, halfway through, and Jackie dipped in and watched some of that video... It looked awful, but it's not until you start building it up and you get a bit darker that it starts to do what it's supposed to do. So, cadmium yellow, fairly runny. You want glass to glow. And in watercolour, you've got much lighter transparencies. So that's what I'm going to put in. There's a little bit down there. It doesn't really matter if you've got more than you need. Because you're getting darker with it. So, to be honest, you could cover your whole glass in a specific colour and then change it somewhat. But to be honest, I don't know if that... I don't know if it'll confuse you or not. Just let that dry. Let it dry, let it dry. I just used cadmium yellow on its own. Just for that bit. Bloop, 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 bloop. Just cadmium yellow. I'm just going to see what it looks like on my phone. I'm paranoid I've set the settings too high. It's Thursday morning, isn't it? You can hear me talking about my paranoid. Actually, no. That looks a bit green. Let me, I think I've gone too far to the green section. Right, I think that looks a bit more cadmium yellowy. Although my brush is often dirty. You could add a bit of lemon yellow in there, but I don't want it. It's more of an amber glass, isn't it? So we want amber. You're not hearing an echo. You're hearing me listening to me because I'm that vain. So I don't think it's your phone. It's me. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Feel a bit better about that now. Okay. Chilly this morning, isn't it? Now, is that yellow dry? I'm just going to flip it with the hairdryer. With my new hairdryer that's going to get covered in paint soon. Isn't it swish? Shiny. Okay. Maybe if all goes wrong, I'll just end up working on QVC. Okay. We'll go with more cadmium yellow and a little cadmium red. So we're creating an orange. That's still too red. I just want it slightly darker. Not much, just slightly. identifiably darker. Maybe I need to do more. I don't know. Now I am actually going to do the rest of the glass in this colour, not the handle because the handle's white, and because the next colour has to glaze over this. Any white dots that I want, I'm actually going to do with a gel pen afterwards, and my reason for that is just because I didn't want to give you the hassle of masking fluid on top of painting glass. I am actually quite kind, despite the rumours. So it's a marked difference because it's got to dry lighter, don't forget. And what's interesting with glass, when you paint glass, is that you do get hard, you don't get blends of colours, you get lines of colours. And that's what's so fun and interesting and intriguing all at the same time. Give that brush a clean. What a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in, why it's almost like being in love. That just cropped into my head, I do apologise. So that's a slightly more, it's a bit like, I suppose we've created cadmium yellow deep by putting, because cadmium orange is cadmium red and cadmium yellow mixed in equal quantities. Sorry for the spoiler. So cadmium yellow deep is just a more orangey cadmium yellow. So you just add a tiny bit of cadmium red into it. Yeah, there we go. I tell how I feel when the bell starts to feel. It's almost like being in love. Is that Nat King Cole sang that? Let that dry. Looking interesting, isn't it? I'm trying to go to slower speed as well, so you don't feel panicky. I struggle because I just want to do it. I'm just going to pivot my palette. We'll look at some blues next. I can tell how I feel when the bell starts to peal. And my heating's gone off and I've just had a very cold draft go up my trouser leg. I think I might stick it back on. That must mean I put it on an hour ago. I normally only have my heating on for an hour at a time, interspersed, but I think today it's so cold and I'm just going to be sitting here at the window till 4 o'clock literally. So yeah, drafty. I could put a little blanket on. I have got a blanket, but I feel like Roald Dahl in his writing shed. Right, so we're going to look at sort of a teal colour which is almost phthalo blue on its own, which we will use in some areas, but I'm going to add a very smidgen of cadmium yellow to just make it a little bit more turquoise, or turquoise. Do you call it turquoise or turquoise? How do you say it? I'm interested to know. Oh, that's a nice colour. So I'm going to look at where to pop this turquoise. Goes there. There is a little hint of it there, because, you know, reflected light is what makes glass glassy and makes us classy. Right. Let's fill all of that in. You want transparency in glass. Glazes are really the best way forward with all of this. They really do make such a difference. Even if I was working in oils or acrylics or not pastels so much, because you can do it in pastels, but in oils and acrylics, you want glazes. They are wonderful tools that are often overlooked. People think they have to keep mixing the same colour all the time. You don't. You just want a glaze, because a glaze interferes with the colours that are underneath. So with this, we're not doing huge amounts of glazing. There's a bit on the floor, isn't there, here? Slightly more dilute. So this is reflected light for sure. I do love painting, you know. It's a good job, isn't it? Really. I guess. I can tell how I feel. A very, very dilute version on this white windowsill. Well, window ledge, frame, whatever this is. It's all the same colour, just add more or less water. I should probably be using a thinner, more detailed brush as well, but I'm foolish. Allow for the fact that watercolour dries 30% lighter. I know you all said it with me. I missed off the ball of that handle, because there's a little bit there. Glass will pick up reflections from all over the place. I hope you're finding this relaxing. It is a little bit weird doing the way we're doing it, but as I say, I'm doing it for stress relieving purposes for you rather than stress inducing. It's been a hectic week in the shop this week. By tomorrow afternoon we'll have shipped out over 100 orders. We've never had it that busy, and it's quite full on, which is nice, but it is quite tiring. So it's almost a full-time job on top of what we're trying to do here as well. What I'm going to do, my colours run out, but I'm going to go with a little bit more phthalo blue on its own. And that way I can start adding a few lighter blue areas to the blue glass here. Oh, you see, I should have spent a few more minutes neatening up some lines, because this beautiful patterned piece is not level. Do you know what? I think I'm going to do the whole of this in this colour. Which is just phthalo blue and water. And then I can add the darker blue to it over the top as a glaze, which will be ultramarine. And it will look amazing, and people will be in awe. You could, if you wanted to, and you're quick, you could glaze over the green with the phthalo blue that's on there, and that will give a nice extra bit of depth. There are two bottles like this one being the other. But I'm just not... I think I'll paint around the colour here, even though it's going to go darker still. And the reason I'm not painting over the undercolour, this is still phthalo blue and water. I wouldn't race with a different colour mix than I haven't already told you. If you get hard lines where you don't want them, because occasionally it does happen, all you need is a clean damp brush, and then you just soften the lines together, and it works beautifully. Just switch to a thinner brush momentarily. And we'll keep going darker and doing what we need to do to create these beautiful pieces of glass. The more shapes you can create and make it more... 100 is good. Well, we're doing some work with a university through Shop Happy, Janet, and they're... Every couple of months they do welfare packages for their students, and they wanted something mindfulness and relaxing, you know, like adult colouring books and colouring pencil kind of thing. So we've had 52 orders for that. That you're only allowed to take so many parcels at a time to the post office, so that's why we're breaking it up Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays before they come and tell us off. But lots of pen orders as well. From my demo on Saturday. I had a lovely demo on Saturday. It was really nice to do. Lots of really interesting chats with people. So you can see we're building this up. We haven't got the darks on. Now, the darks won't go on until about... The real darks, I think, won't go on until 11:45 probably. Depends how well we work and how quickly things dry, I suppose. See that bottle, the little blue bottle at the back, there is more green on it, but we'll put more green on it as we progress. I can still see my pencil lines, which I was worried about. I thought I'd end up washing them all out, which I'd find quite annoying. It was nice. Did you see the finished piece, Janet? Did you get to see? I did post it, but I don't know if everybody saw it. I'm just gonna look for my pad to see if I can show you. Where have I put my pad? Where is the pad? Put you somewhere. Show yourself, little pad. Because I hadn't quite finished the demo, had I? I'm just waiting for paint to dry so I can talk to you about it. Well, what you want it? Yeah, it's all right if you can see your pencil lines or you can't see your pencil lines. It's a bit tricky, isn't it? Knowing how deep. I've lost a few down here. So what I did, Janet, on the Saturday class is I kept the focus. I did an extra 45 minutes work and I kept the focus on the window and the plant pots. So I faded out the pen lines and did less and less detail the further out it went. So it fills the whole scene. So a lot are just outlined in pen. Then we've got a few extra dots and then the dotting and the darks intensify around this area here. I didn't do a colour wash in the end, but I did use a bit of brown pen on the flower pots, grey in the windows. But yeah, I enjoyed doing that. I didn't anticipate, we ran out of stock and then we ran out of packaging, so I didn't anticipate how popular it would be. My fault. Okay. Now, there are two things we could do. I'm going to switch to my smaller one. I'm going to do a little bit more work on this one. So I'm just going to use a bit of phthalo blue up here, because I want to use some of that phthalo blue later on, and a little bit of cadmium yellow. So it will be a little bit brighter and a little bit punchier. This is almost like our Viridian, because Viridian's often called phthalo green. Fun fact for you. And I think there is reflected light here. Over the shoulder. I need to put that in there as well. Over down here. So this is a glaze, this is transparent, and I'm not getting rid of all of the colour. I'm keeping some of the undercolours underneath, because it's important to do that. I find it fascinating how it just magically starts to look like glass, even though we're doing very little to make it that way. And this is definitely a painting. Well, that must mean it's cup of tea time, and I've missed the opportunity so far. Let's make sure that happens then. What I find fascinating about this is this. I said to you at the beginning, didn't I? This is going to be a lesson in painting shapes, because all art is painting the right shape in the right place with the right brush, and basically that's what our whole lesson is about today, and you'll start to see how magical it actually is as it comes to life. Now, I've added a little bit more yellow for the background glass. I've switched to my number 4 round because I wasn't getting the... Because I'm impatient, we know this. I wasn't getting the level of a finish that I needed. And again, this still isn't the darks. I am obviously, when we do these classes, I give a rough indication of how long the class is going to be, and I allow an extra half an hour of time should it be tricky or just a little bit more complicated or detailed. So we've got until 12:30 in these classes, even though largely we finish at midday, don't we? We roughly finish at 12. But I've got less pressure to make sure I do it, so I won't be rushing you. Let's put a bit of that green down there. Yeah, nice. Reflected light. It's all about the reflected light. Okay. I'm going to just fill my cup of, my mug up. And then we'll carry on. We might do some purples next. Ooh, yeah. Cup of tea. Rightio. Let's do a bit of purple. Woo. Right, that's what I wanted this bit of phthalo blue for. Because this big glass here, it's a pinky purple, but we're going to do a purpley purple next. So I want to do a crimson or carmine with your phthalo blue, and we're going to make a nice bluey purple. And that's just going to go in the dark bits, in the darker bits. We're going to do a pinky pink over the rest of it. But I want to make sure. Oh, I've switched to this brush again. I shouldn't have. What am I doing? Squeeze it out. Go with the other one. It's often a balancing act, I find, to know which brush is best. Now clearly, to do a big area, it's much better to use a big brush. However, there is also the fact that, oh, let me go over, no, I don't want to go over that green, that I need control, or at least feel like I have control, which I don't always have. So don't forget, if you've got, I mean, you could, I've just painted over that one, and I don't feel bad for it, but if you didn't want to paint over, you could, if you get a hard edge, don't forget, soften the edge, and you'll be much happier. I'm leaving some areas white, because when we do the pinky one, I'll glaze over with that, and it'll give me a nice pinky bit. So I'm looking at where all of these purple bits are. It's all about adding up. We've got more darks and things to do on all of the bottles, and colours will change, and lights will change, and all of this kind of thing, and that's fine. But I'm guessing for many of you it might be the first, or you haven't done a huge amount of coloured glass painting in watercolour, which is what you're doing the lesson for. So it's kind of beholden on me to try and be nice to you. I do find that so hard. I'm joking. I don't. I'm not a horrid person, really, most of the time. Build it up, buttercup. So I'll show you here, look, just a clean damp brush will help soften lines and blends a little. But you know, if you go over it, don't matter. It really doesn't matter. Might add a little bit more blue in this. Ooh, yeah. Because there's an area here. Now, is that too wet? I think I've just caught it in time, otherwise I'd have got a massive cauliflower. It still could happen. I find all of this so fun. I love these classes, and I love a Thursday morning class because it's always so different, isn't it? Well, last week we were drawing boxing hares. This week is coloured glass in watercolour. Next week is a rainy scene and puddles in acrylics. that is a bit too wet. I went in a bit too excitedly with my slightly bluer colour, and I will feel bad about it now. Let me get the hairdryer on it. Oh, I've got it stuck on my hook. There we are. Alright, now that should give me a slightly better line. Yes, that's what I wanted. That's what I should have waited for instead of just going gung-ho. And again, this is not the darks. By no means is this the darks. This is just lots of different tones and colours, which is what it's all about. It's about the blend. The blend. I don't know. This is a green glass, isn't it here? But a green grey. Do you know what I might do? Is I might use this cadmium yellow and phthalo blue mix that I've still got up here, and I'm flitting to stop me from fiddling with the others, because I'm a terror. Let's just get that in and out of the way, because I'm going to keep leaning on it and my fingerprints are going to inhibit the paint. So this is just cadmium yellow, phthalo blue, same as we've used in all of the other background bottles, but this one will end up being darker, I think. Yeah. Okay. It's starting to look a bit more glass-like, isn't it now, don't you think? Even though we're not really doing anything. I think that's clever. And again, it's because we're looking at shapes. We're not thinking about them as bottles. Crucial to the development of this is thinking about shapes, not bottles. So I'm going to keep going until it's finished. I can't keep going forever, obviously, because I've got another class at 2 o'clock. But more than likely, we'll finish this before 12:30, for sure. I'm feeling a bit sad for this red glass because he's not had anything done to it. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give my big brush a clean, and I'm actually going to do a very insipid cadmium red wash on it, just on all of it. Very, very soft red. Basically pink. And there's only going to be a very small amount of this colour remaining on the glass itself, but nevertheless, actually, I'll go back into a little bit of that yellowy colour. I can do a bit of reflected light now of that on there, on the floor. Okay, stop. Slowly being built up, looking absolutely nothing like the photograph, looking absolutely nothing like glass or anything, and that's just the way it should be at this point in the lesson. But I would say that, wouldn't I? So we just let it all dry. If I talk you through the sequence, the next thing will be the pinky purple on the big lot of bottles, and then we'll start creating more of the shapes and patterns. We'll probably go back onto the sort of ultramarine vase on the bottle on the left with the trellis pattern, and we'll use ultramarine on there, and then we'll work our way, fitting ourselves, like I said, creative little butterflies this morning. We're just going to drop into one and drop into another, drop into one, drop into another. So let me just get the hairdryer on this, just because I am impatient. You have the ability to pause and watch whenever. I don't have the ability to paint and pause. Okay, so don't forget, whatever we do, I haven't said we're doing the darks yet. So whatever we're going to create is still not the darks. Okay? I'm going to use this phthalo blue mix that's got a bit of the crimson in. And I'm going to go way more crimson. So it's just a very soft pinky purple. Very dilute. I don't know what colour I would call this, but it's whatever colour that is. Now I'm actually going to paint over everything bar the turquoise. And I need to work quick. Which is why I've gone for my big brush, you may have wondered. If you did, well done for wondering. And it's for not just for speed, it's to ensure that I don't smudge the colours underneath. I might go in with a number 4 round. Clean up edges, damp brush. Yeah, nice. So we're still not doing darks. So that's just the crimson or carmine, a lot of water, and a tiny bit of phthalo blue or cerulean to give us that nice little mark. So on those back 3 bottles, we're done except for darks. With that little amber jug, we're done except for darks. It's these two we need to worry about. Well, not worry about. Don't worry about anything. It's just a bit of paint in it, but you know what I mean. I might do the red jug next. The red. I keep calling it. They're not jugs. There's only one jug. All the others are bottles. Okie doke. I'm going to go with a bit of cadmium red now in a number 4 brush. It's not pure cadmium red, but I do think I need to do it in cadmium red. And almost everything is going to be this colour. I did say that this original colour that we put on, this really pink wash, was for a very small area. But I'd rather it be on than not at all. So I could use the big brush for this, but I just want to take my time so I don't annoy you all much. It'll get to the point where the really thin line will almost look white, because it's actually the lightest colour on, apart from a few little bits on the sort of stepped area. It is the lightest colour that we've got on here. If you like glass and you're interested in that kind of stuff, and you have Netflix, there is a wonderful, it's an American series, a bit like the Bake Off and Sewing Bee and all of that, and it's called Blown Away, and it's all about glass blowing. It's a shame they didn't do it in the Black Country, which is the home of blown glass, but it's good nonetheless. And every week they get set, you know, there's about 8-9 people get voted off each week. Well, one person gets voted off each week, and they create whatever is the judges have deemed that they need to create for that day or that week. And then they have a bit of an exhibition in a nice studio with white lights and white plinths and all of that kind of thing, so they can see what it looks like, and then they judge each piece against the criteria. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So what at the moment, this is all the really lighter bits. So all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to the red are painted in, apart from the darks. There's just the blue glass, the checkerboard or the trellis type blue that I'm going to do next. It's already 11:30. It's amazing how the time flies. So I'm going to get a slight wriggle on. The only colour I'm going to be using next is ultramarine. So you haven't got to worry about what's he using. Just ultramarine. Let me get the hairdryer on. Red glass. Because I know some of you were a little bit more methodical. I'm not going to say slow because that's wrong. No, there's no speed in art. You all go at your own speed. I'm just a lot faster because of the lessons, is all. So never apologise for being slower than anybody else, because you don't hold anybody up, you just work at your own speed, which is exactly what I would hope and expect would happen. So just ultramarine by itself. And it'll be nice for me to be able to chat to you about the darks. Because it'll be slightly different to each coloured bit of glass. So we're either adding more water or more blue, depending on how dark we want it to go. And again, I'm using my small brush, but mainly that's to slow me down. So there's going to be pale blues, well, watery ultramarines, which I'll do first with sort of the textures within each diamond shape. I seem to have lost my internet, apologies. I think somebody's doing some work outside, the whole internet went off. She's a bit naughty, but I think I'm back now. So this is just watery ultramarine. So don't panic, it wasn't your internet, it was actually me, and I don't know what happened there. There must have just something happened. I am not a cat. I am live. So I'm kind of, if I'm honest, I'm sort of making up these swirls that's inside each of these diamonds. They seem to be outlined, and then there's sort of like marbly, swirly bits. Some of them are striated. That's a big word. Some of them are angular, some of them are swirly. But they all sort of allow some of that light to show through. So it's just very dilute ultramarine. And again, what you might want to do, if you are a little slower than me, and as I say, there is absolutely nothing at all wrong with that. So do not beat yourself up about it. If you are slower, more methodical, however you want to call it, it doesn't matter. Do some of each thing that I'm doing. So you've got a worked piece that you can add to later on. A worked piece. So you've got some of the coloured glass in one bit, some of the highlights in another, some of the darks in another. All of it is perfectly acceptable. And what you want to see. So this is just slightly stronger ultramarine to help darken some of the lines. Yeah, weird about the internet just then. Because I know it's definitely not this laptop, because spent a fortune on a new one. I suppose you could call this almost a pineapple design. I bet someone in the industry will call this a pineapple design. I call it lattice or trellis. There's some darker areas, and just sort of play around in the bits where you really think there's some real dark bits in there. It's all about the observation, isn't it? So you gradually want to start changing the colours and the tones. Now, if you want a lot less of the original lighter blue, as each section dries, you just add more washes of lines of ultramarine, but slightly more diluted. And it should sort of help bring things back a little bit. But there is still some darks to put on this one. So basically, all the darks are the only things left once we've finished this. And as I've said previously, if you are a little bit behind, don't worry. Do what you can, how you can. Do a bit of everything. And then you'll find it much easier to watch back, which you're allowed to do. These classes will stay forever and a day in the group. And I'll do more darks when we do the darks. Sort of like that. There's every chance, actually, we can, I'm going to say get away with, we're not going to get away with anything, it's not sort of illegal. The shadow colour for all of them is going to be a very deep, dull purple. And that will work for all of the pictures, all of the bottles and vases and things. So that's good. So we'll just let this dry. I'm gonna give you to 1:45, and then I will plough on regardless, and I'll endeavour to use the same colour for all of the shadows, so it won't you won't have to keep thinking, oh, what colours are you using now? What colours are you using now? From here on in, it will be the same colour. I'll tell you about that in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to refill my mug. So we've got lots and lots of lovely colours that I'm now going to darken. Very two of you this morning. Well, well, well. So the colour I'm going to use is a really dull purple. And that will work on all of the colours that we're working here. And it's going to be phthalo blue and cadmium red. And I know that will make a dull purple because phthalo blue is green-based blue. And cadmium red is an orange-based red. And because we've got green, blue, orange, and red in the mix that we're going to make, it kind of works with everything. It's a good background and it's a nice cool colour. You want quite a lot of red in there for it to work well. And it will react with all of the colours on here. So I'm going to start from left to right, I think. This glass here, this one. Let's outline you. And you've got a heavier shoulder. And we've got sort of striations coming down here, where I'm sort of diluting. I don't want anything too severe. But we want it to feel darker, because it is. But can you see how well that colour's worked with the green? You wouldn't think it, would you? Let's see how well this colour works with the ultramarine. Perfect complementary. It's not a complementary colour either. It is. It's basically the science behind why I use this colour is because it does have a bit of everything in it. So because it's got blue in it, it works really well with the blue. Because it's got red in it, it works really well with the red. And because it's got orange in it, it works really well with all the yellows. And we're not sort of, we're not going to be using this for every, you know, we're not covering everything with it. We're just doing edges. And some of the lines are going to be a bit deeper, of course. And that's where we sort of are using our observational skills, which we've all got, but we just don't use them. I used to love it on the Krypton. Do you remember the Krypton Factor? Where they would do an observation round and you'd see a video and then they'd ask you questions based on the video that you just watched. I used to love that. Can you see how instant... Oh, I've just put that in my tea. Oh. I've also added a nice little bit of brown in here with my tea. So I've added a lovely mix of tones. Gosh. And usually I've got my tea next to my water jar, which is what's causing me great confusion this morning. Slightly darker though, with all of this colour on the right hand side, just a little bit. Again, don't go mad with it. Don't beat yourself up with it. It's just a bit of paint, isn't it, at the end of the day? And if it doesn't work, what have you lost? You've spent a lovely morning being creative in good company. Me. And you know, you've learned a lot. And don't take away from that, because you've done it. Maybe you've done a painting that you don't like. Sadly, that's what I do most days. But hopefully, I really do hope you can see how this colour is a game changer for everything that we're doing today. I need to make a little bit more dilute, and I think I need a bit more cadmium red in it. I've run out of the red bit. You see, what happens with these colours, which is a little bit frustrating, is that they granulate, and I got a student that calls it pixelate, a little bit like on a screen. Let's go a little bit more dilute with this. I'll add a little bit more red into it. So you can always put extra red over the top if you need to. Which sort of subtles some of the colour down a little bit, tampers it down, so it's less in your face. Yeah, but the tea is a replacement for Betsy. Yeah, yes. I wouldn't recommend it. It hasn't come out wonderfully well. But no, do you know what, Marie? I'm exactly the same. I will do a painting, and as I'm working my way through, I want more red in it now as I'm moving across. I start to see a lot more detail in, and then I get really annoyed with myself because I wish I'd added it when I needed to, rather than at the point that I've discovered it. You're not on your own there. So this is still the same purple. I've added it a little bit more red and I've made it slightly more dilute. And it'll go a bit of a brown colour. And you've always got the option to go even darker if you need to, which is well worth remembering. You're sort of better off doing light, then dark, then going dark, then panic, then crying. Which nobody wants to do over their artwork, do they? Now I have got a little area here where I could probably leave some white and it'll look alright. I will probably mix a much stronger colour to do extra darks, but I don't want to scare you all off too soon. Although it is 12 o'clock coming up, so if you've lasted this long, well done. It's all the same colour, and hopefully you can see how amazing the colour is and how it reacts. Now don't expect miracles, please. Especially if you've never done this before. Mine doesn't always work out, and I've been doing it lots of times, so, you know, be kind. As I say, be kind always. or what is it? In a world where you can be anything, be kind. But what you also have to do, and I need to do this because I don't, is be kind to yourself. Gonna carry on. Stay until 12:30 is the latest I will stay, but I don't think I'll need to. Hopefully, as I'm doing this, you are looking and thinking, "Oh yeah, I can see how it's meant to look, or I can see the reasons behind what he's doing." Even if it's not exactly doing what it's supposed to do on your own piece. I need to mix up a slightly darker. When I want darker, I basically mean more paint, less water. That when I say dark, that's what I mean. But getting the balance of red to blue is important. But, you know, I will carry on and I'll reaffirm what I said to you earlier, that painting is just the right colour in the right place in the right shape, and that's exactly what we've been doing today. The right colour, hopefully, in the right place, hopefully, in the right shape, hopefully. And as you start building up the darks, it starts to take a little bit more form and solidity, which is what we're after. And it will really come into its own with these darker glasses, bottles. I'll get it right. It's a bottle, Barry, a bottle, you know? Bottle. Might do a bit more reflected light on the step bits as well. Just there's lots of little things now that you can do. that begin to make a difference to the pieces. None of them are sort of game changing in any way or difficult. It is just your observation. And it may be that after today you think, do you know what? I really have to do a bit more on my observational skills because I can't see anything that he's painting. Looks nothing like what I've got or what I've drawn. That's alright. It's one way to find out, isn't it? I've said to many of you many times before, my dad always said he hated lasagna, but he never ate it. So how do you know until you try? Give it a go. Then you can hand on heart say, I've tried that, didn't work, didn't like it. Tried it more than once. More than once. I'm going to use this. Do you know what? I'm going to just go for it with this colour. I love it. So I'm going to paint the side of the step things with it. And I do hope you're enjoying this. Because it's a very different lesson, isn't it? Doing something like this. Not, as I said at the beginning, you know, it's not the most technical of things as long as your drawing's there. And that's what we've got to kind of remember. That sometimes we don't draw enough, and we are too reliant on the fact that the colour will help us. And yeah, you know what, it will help, but it shouldn't replace. Because imagine trying to do this in pencil, and then you'll realise just how crucial your line work is. The reflected light is basically the similar colours that you've already put down. We have done some reflected light, but there are some slightly darker areas in the same colours as the object that just sort of create a bit of a halo. Hopefully that's looking like we would hope. So the reflective light is always going to be more dilute, but because we've got shadows and things on there, it really does help create that glow and luminescence of glass. And you can always go in You know what? I don't think I can do any more. I might use a bit of white gel pen just for the odd little bits of white that might help. But I've kind of covered them all anyway, so I shouldn't need much. Now I'm seeing all of these things that I should have put in earlier, but now which I'm adding later. Just little shapes in purples on the purple bottle. But then I don't know if my my photocopy is printing out more detail because it highlights the colours rather than they seeing exactly what's there. If you wanted to make the glass feel a little pinkier, what I might do is I might just do a real pinky purple over the top. Let me just get, and then I'll have finished. I'll get my big brush because that pink isn't showing up. It's not as strong as I wanted it to be. So let me just go back over, because you don't always know until it dries how it's going to be. I don't want the colours to run, you see, either, so I've got to be less fiddly. Give it a dry. Oh gosh, we nearly are on half past. Just redefine the back end of the amber jug where I've now painted around it. Hint of gel pen. I think I'm done. I do hope, see, I haven't bothered doing that line down there. I do hope you've enjoyed today. Something different anyway, isn't it? A new way of working, perhaps. A new subject matter that you might try and create at another point. Next week should be acrylics, is it? Yes, it's a rainy scene and puddles, so we'll be doing lots of dragging and all of that kind of thing. A really nice lesson. I am terrible. I keep seeing things now that I need to stop fiddling with. But it will all help build up, I suppose. The texture of glass. Yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. I've said that 5 minutes ago. I'll take a photo and I'll post it in the picture. Yes, it is half term next week. It's usually around Valentine's Day, isn't it? So coming up this week, tomorrow afternoon, well, this afternoon we're doing Stormy Skies over Glencoe in watercolour. Tomorrow afternoon is Clasped Hands on the Walking Stick in watercolour. Saturday morning is Carolingian Calligraphy. Sunday morning is watercolour and it's layers of Derwent in sepia. Monday morning is acrylics and it's a windy Welsh road. Monday evening is Stormy Skies over Glencoe in watercolour. Tuesday evening, a barn owl in flight in acrylics. Wednesday afternoon's drawing is a portrait in pencil. And next week for us is, this lesson is the rainy scene and puddles in acrylics. Diolch yn fawr, Mary. Diolch. Yeah, thank you very much. I've enjoyed your company and I will see you all very soon. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.